Welcome, Nomads, to the Nomad Nation Network. I am your host and fellow Nomad, Step Van Rav. This is Nomad News for Saturday, September 7th, 2019. Before we get to our first story, guys, do me a little favor and look right down there and click that little red subscribe button, and be sure to click the little bell right next to it. That way you'll get a new notification every single time there's a new episode of Nomad News. That way you stay in the know when it comes to everything in the Nomad Nation. Now, to our first story. All right, guys, our very first story here, it just kind of popped up. I was in this episode of Nomad News together when my good friend Mr. Paul Barger, a.k.a. the Bread Trucker, texted me to let me know that on one of the other news channels, I know you're all probably familiar with Camo Dave, that one of Camo Dave's last videos actually featured Paul Barger. Wow, look what we have here, guys. It looks like...
All right, Descend on Bend, August 29th, September 2nd there, Bend, Oregon. We're getting some of the videos here about all the festivities and festoonings that happen there in Oregon. And quite a lot of people showed up, including the guy in the bread truck, Paul Barger, the one that got pulled over by the cops a while back.
Yeah, you have Mr. Paul Barger, a.k.a. the Bread Trucker. And Paul and I were pretty astounded because Paul's been doing this van life thing for a couple of years now. I'm going on 3 years. And one thing that we all discussed, or several nomads discussed this past RTR 2019 in January, was the simple fact that so many of us was at RTR and very, very few of us made any of the news channels. And some of us have been doing van life for a lot longer than other van lifers, but we never got any coverage on the news. And that brings me to the point of why I decided to start this channel. I just think there's so many nomads out there that it's impossible for the other two news channels that I know of, and I'm sure there's probably a couple more, but the ones I know of is the OG news channel, of course, is Camo Dave, and then right behind Camo Dave you have Blind Views, and then now you have me. So I've gotten some snide comments and stuff in my comments section, and you know, people making comments about, you know, I'm trying to take Camo Dave's genre away from him and stuff like that, and that's not it at all. I'm just adding to it. I'm you know, there, if you turn on network TV, you've got CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox. There's always more than one news channel, and you know, the news usually, the major network news, they usually cover the same topics. So, you know, I'm hoping that we can, you know, that Dave and Blind Views and myself, that we can cover some of the same topics, but then hopefully we can add some different topics to each story to make everybody's channel interesting for everybody. I'm not hating on Dave. I'm not hating on Blind Views. I'm not trying to be their competition. I'm just another avenue, another source for van life stuff. And I am actually a van lifer. I live in a van. So, you know, or a step van. I live in a retired Snap-on truck. I'm working in my office. I have an office at work, but I actually live, my truck is parked right out there on the street right now. One of these days over on my other channel, Nomad Nation, I will show you guys. I'm going to give you guys a little get up from my desk and go to my home, my truck that's parked out on the street, the city street right now here in LA. So, I just wanted to, you know, I wanted to say, I guess, in all honesty, I think some of us got a little bit butthurt about not being able to make any of the news channels when we were at RTR. And, you know, some of the news channels, and I get it now after doing this for a month, I totally understand. You just kind of get, you're trying to research, but you kind of always revert back to those channels that you've always watched. So it can be hard to branch out to different channels and look at different channels. So, and, you know, and the other thing is, like, you know, I'm sure that Dave and Blind Views probably saw my channel. It just probably didn't interest them. And that's part of it, you know. That's why me coming into this mix just adds to that. And if there's anybody else out there that wants to get into the news mix, I think right now is the perfect time to do it. So, you know, the more news channels that can actually add some substance to the news, in the news for the van life community, I think it's a positive. I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. Anyway, guys, so let's actually move on to the real news. All right, guys, in our very first story, our actual first story here, we're going to be talking about, I want to thank Into the YouTube Zone, who is one of my viewers and subscribers, and he actually emailed me and kind of turned me onto this story. It might have been discussed on a couple of the other channels, I'm not sure, but I wanted to discuss it here because I thought it was pretty important. Basically, there's a YouTube channel, and it's run by a gentleman named Rusty. His channel is Rusty78609. Rusty has actually 37,000 subscribers. I'd never heard of this channel, but I must say that is pretty impressive, Rusty. If you watch this, that's a great amount of subscribers. Anyway, what it's regarding is one of his last videos. Rusty is actually he's a 74-year-old nomad that lives full-time in a little, he pulls behind, he's got like a white Dodge pickup, and he pulls a little casita travel trailer behind his pickup. And he lives, and he is a full-time nomad. And one of his last videos, him being 74 years old, he doesn't sound like he's 74. He's still got it all going on up here if you watch a couple of his videos. I hope I'm in that good a shape when I'm 74. But he addresses a question that is for any of you older folks out there that may be looking into getting into the van life or getting into the RV life. He actually goes through some things and gives some thoughts in one of his last videos about what he thinks. You know, he had actually had one of his fans or subscribers actually ask him the question, a guy that was 52 years old, basically you know, put it out there like, what do you think about, you know, you're 74, so what, you know, what are your thoughts about getting into van life or being a van lifer at a later age?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rusty78609, and I've got a question from a subscriber viewer, and I was going to respond to their email, and then I thought, wait a minute, I'll just do a video because it may be of interest to some of the other people in the audience. I won't mention the person's name. They'll know who they are by the question as I review it here. And you'll also probably hear the air conditioner. That's what that fan noise is. No problem with that. But anyway, I'm going to read it just like he states it and try to answer it as I go, or some of it. It says, I got a question, and if this is something you do not want to go into, don't worry, I won't. I will still watch your channel and enjoy it. So I am 52 and you are 74, and I've noticed that you every now and then express, using my words, a reticence about the now and the immediate future and the near future with regards to boondocking, having a home base in town, whether you prefer a small home somewhere, slowing down, watching where you hike, etc. My question is this: you seem to be in good health. Good health, actually. Your mind is sharper than some people 50 years younger than you. Is the caution that seems to underlie some of your decisions related more to age creeping up on that you actually feel are merely getting ahead of the curve and looking at your age and preparing yourself for what you assume is to come, even though you may not actually feel that way yet? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm getting it. Anyway, another way to put it is, are you cautious because you feel age actually creeping up on you, or are you merely looking at the calendar and assuming that you need to do this even though you do not feel that way yet? The question is framed against my being somewhat younger than you and wondering what to expect as the odometer of life further accumulates for me. Of course, it is understood everyone's experience with this varies widely, and that's very true. Again, if it, it says, anyway, so let's go back up here. It says, is the caution that seems to underlie some of your decision related more to age creeping up on you than you actually feel, or are you merely getting ahead of the curve? Actually, And, you know, that you know, it's hard. I mean, I can answer it for me, and maybe that'll help you. You know, again, I'm 74 years old. My health is, knock on wood, pretty good now. Will it continue to be that way? Who knows? Could change tonight, today, now. What I do is I look at the reality of life, of living. When I go in a grocery store or Walmart and I look around and I see people in their 80s or whatever, I see how they get around, and then I think about my future at my age 74, when I get to be 80, 90, whatever, if I live that long. You know, what will I be capable of doing? And not only capable of doing, see, you're going to be capable of doing a lot of things, and then add this, capable of doing safely. See, that's the key, safely.
So it's a very informative video. So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you head over there and look at it. I'm going to card it right up here, and I will put a link down in the bottom in the description to Rusty's channel, so you can go check out his channel. And if you decide to subscribe and comment, be sure to tell him that Nomad News sent you, and that's where you heard of him. Anyway, guys, to the next story. It's going to be none other than Mr. Bob Wells, the van life guru himself. We all know who Bob is. Bob actually has a channel called Cheap RV Living, and he's got 331,000 subscribers. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? So Bob just interviewed Jarrod Tocci, who is actually a van lifer that I've talked to a couple times on Instagram, because he's here local to the LA area himself. And Jarrod has, I think, about 40,000 subscribers himself. Let's see here how many subscribers Jarrod has. So Jarrod right there actually has 49,370 subscribers. So that is nothing to scoff about either. He's killing it as well. All these people with all these thousands and thousands of subscribers, and I can't even reach 10,000. Poor violin. Anyway, guys, yeah, so Bob actually interviews Jarrod, and they talk a lot about what it's like to be a nomad, a city-dwelling nomad, or, you know, somebody that's like myself as well that lives here in Los Angeles. And I watched the video, and it was actually very informative. I actually agreed with a lot of what Jarrod had to say. All right, so we have Mr. Bob Wells right there, the van life guru himself, and Mr. Jarrod Tocci right there, and they are discussing what it's like to be an urban nomad, which is something I actually have some experience in. So I was pretty interested into hearing what they had to say, and I was pleasantly surprised because I actually agreed with pretty much everything that Jarrod said. There's a couple of things that you know, I harp about that nomads do that basically give themselves away when you're living in an urban environment as a urban nomad. One of the things that you really do that most nomads do that just totally gives themselves away is they cover their windshield and their side windows with reflectix. If you do this, you've just basically just thrown your stealth right out the window. You need to figure out a way that you can separate the back of your rig and the cab so you can leave your two side windows open and not covered with reflectix, and just cover your windshield with reflectix. Because if you cover your two side windows and your driver's door and your passenger door, your stealth just went right out the window with the reflectix. See what I did there? Anyway, so yeah, they discussed that, and they discussed several other topics, and I was very pleasantly surprised because I actually agreed with most of what those two had to say. I'll link Bob's channel and I'll link Jarrod's channel, as always, in the description down below if you want to go check out their channel. I'm sure you both probably heard of both of those guys. They're very popular in the van community. And last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Box Truck CORY. Mr. Box Truck CORY has a channel, a YouTube channel with 1,500 subscribers, and he is going to be our shout out of the episode, our small van life YouTube shout out of this episode. Mr. Box Truck CORY, by his name, you probably guessed it, he actually lives in a commercial box truck. And he has, one of his last videos, he is actually talking about what it's like to actually be interviewed by none other than the guru himself, the van life guru himself, Mr. Bob Wells. Because Corey was actually lucky enough at one point when he was in Arizona, he's in Canada in this video, and I think he said Toronto, Ontario, I'm not sure, but he said he was in Canada. I did watch the video. I was been accused the last time of not watching a video. I watch every video I report on, guys. Box Truck Corey decided to give his insight on what it's like to be interviewed by none other than Cheap RV Living's Bob Wells. So he gives a little quick insight to it. So it's kind of a cool little video if you want to go over there and check it out. And as always, I'll put Mr. Box Truck Corey's channel link down below. And if you go over there and you talk to, and if you decide to subscribe and comment, be sure to tell Box Truck Corey that Nomad News sent you. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Nomad News. I really want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm doing some tweaking with the lighting here and I spent literally 2.5 hours setting up different lighting scenarios to see what I like the best. I'm trying to get these reflections out of my glasses. Not having all the luck, but it's better than it was. But I'm working on some different lighting and some different stuff. So to get this studio space exactly like I want it, so I don't have to concentrate on that, the aesthetics of what you see is the way I want it. But I'm not quite there, but I'm getting there. But anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Nomad News, and until next time, safe travels, and remember, everything you ever wanted is sitting right on the other side of fear. Peace.